Hi, Gene here with today's thought. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July. Now back to business, which is listening to my thoughts. So here's my thought for today. We've been hearing a lot of complaints the last, I guess it could be the last week by now, ever since the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, which means lowering standards for entrance into universities to get more minorities into the universities. Now, the excuse that these people use who support this affirmative action, which is really just racial quotas. Well, first of all, if it's okay to set a quota, a percentage of, if you want, the word that they use, diversity, if you want a diverse student body, for instance, to say, okay, we want to have a certain percentage of people from the Midwest, certain people from from rural areas, certain percentage from urban areas. And you can even go by race and say we want a certain percentage of, let's say, black people or Hispanics. Though what you can't do is lower the standards if you don't meet your quota. The key words are up to. So you can, let's say if your requirement for Harvard or some high-end Ivy League school is to be in the top, to be in the 90th percentile, let's say, then you can set aside 10% of if you have, let's say 1,000 students can come in that year, and you can set aside 10%. So 100 places for, let's say, black students, and you can say, okay, as long as you use everybody's in the same pool, you look in the 90th percentile, and if you have 100 black students, they all get in. If you have 100 and say 50 black students who are in the 90th percentile, then they're not all going to get in if that's the percentage that you want to set. But this is the important part. If you have 100 places, but let's say you have 75 black students that are in the 90th percentile, you cannot go below that percentile to get enough black students to fill your quota. That's all that the Supreme Court decision really means. So the obvious solution is just to lower the standard and lower it to say the 50th percentile. Say anybody with a D average, D average and above can get in. Then you're going to have enough Asians, black people, any group you want to pick out. You could even have me. I would have loved to have gone to Harvard myself. My SAT scores and my grades were not good enough. I couldn't get in, and I just don't see how it's fair that somebody who got the same grades as me and the same score as me and maybe even lower gets in because of the color of his skin. That is just plain wrong. But if you lower the standards, you can let everybody in. The problem for the university is then it soon gets out that you've lowered the standards, and then let's say if you do that at Harvard, it doesn't mean so much anymore that a graduate went to Harvard, because that student did not have to meet a high standard to get in, and you don't know how smart that student really was. Maybe would have gotten in anyway if it was the 90th percentile. Maybe would not have a chance. You wouldn't know. So when you have a racial quota and you say the 90th percentile and go below that, the people below that who are getting in, regardless if they're minorities or not, they're piggybacking on the high achieving students. In other words, they're letting Elena Kagan said that herself during arguments on this Moore case, which is the affirmative action case, and she said, well, if you don't let these kids in, then they have a harder time getting a great job, because going to Harvard has a certain prestige to it that would make it easier for you to get in than if you went to, say the school I went to, Wayne State University in Detroit. But if you, the problem is that you're piggybacking on that, on these high achieving students. They're using your lower scoring students are using this reputation to get into the better school. And the problem is that a lot of these students who get in below the required percentile, they drop out anyhow. They drop out with a massive student loan, because it doesn't you get in. It's the idea is that you get in with a low score, but you suddenly get smarter. You get educated because it's at Harvard that will bring you up to the level of the other students. And no, it's not true. You'll start at the higher level of the other students, and you're going to be lower, and you're not going to be able to do the work. And that's the way it works out. Or you get another problem that's been Harvard is starting to get known for, which is grade inflation, where you just give the student an A, even though the student really didn't do the work, so or achieve the level. So you see the problem. But what they're saying, one of the critics of the Supreme Court decision said, and this is my main point, that critic said, well, I forgot her name, but she said, well, if you have merit, if you base entrance into colleges on merit, then black people won't get in, because what she's saying is black people aren't able to achieve what white people and or white applicant students and Asian students can achieve, and so you have to lower the standards because they would never get in based on their merit. And it doesn't matter, the merit doesn't matter. It's just having if you take a color photo, you want to see a lot of different colored faces in the photo, which is then these people, if it's medical school, they're going to go out and operate on somebody. So the point is that contention, number one, is very demeaning. Well, George Bush talked about the soft bigotry of low expectations. But what it is, it's outright racism of low expectations, of saying, well, these students just can't achieve at that level, that black students and Hispanic students can't achieve at the level of a white student and an Asian student. So I want to say that I'm going to read you an article here. I'll link to the article, very short, but it shows that it's false. Now, I did a vlog on this earlier about a charter school in New York City where it was all minority. The graduating class was 75 students, all minority. They all got into college. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is another charter school, again in New York, and the same organization, Success Academy. And let me just read you. This is going to be about, well, let me read it, and then maybe I'll go into some detail, but I'm quoting from the article now. Well, the title is Success Academy Smashes Regents and Lefty Lies on Standardized Testing, which is what we're talking about. Yet more hard data disproves the Democrats' line that standardized tests are somehow racist. Success Academy, fresh off the heels of a massive study proving how handily it smashed regular public schools in terms of actually teaching kids, has put up insane numbers on New York State Regent exams. And here we go. All Success, that's the name of the school, All Success 8th graders took multiple Regents tests meant for 11th and 12th graders. So we're talking about 8th grade students taking tests meant for 11th and 12th graders. These charter kids, mostly low-income black and Hispanic students, i.e., that is, the children the left claims simply can't be expected to do well on standardized tests, knocked them out of the park. Some 99.8 passed the algebra Regents. 47% scored a 5, the highest mark. This is in algebra. In English, 94.6% passed. And in biology, 96%. And younger kids kicked butt too. With Success, 7th graders. So we're talking about 7th graders taking the global history and geography Regents and 90% passing. So we can I'll just digress a second. We can just pretty much agree that the 10% that didn't pass, or the less than 2% that didn't pass, the math or whatever, these are 8th graders. By the time they reach 11th and 12th grade level, they're all going to pass. Okay, that's pretty obvious. So now getting back to the article, to put this in context, the pass rate for city high schoolers on the algebra test was 57% in 2022. 65% on biology, 73% on English, and 74% on global history. So the conclusion is, and again, I'm leaking to you the article. You should read the whole thing, though. I pretty much read the whole article. Quality education is easily the most important social tool for helping the disadvantaged rise. So how did opposing good public schools, which is what charters like Success are, and high standards of academic achievement wind up as core elements of the New York, quote, progressive, unquote, agenda? And well, we all know the answer: unionized public schools. Teachers, and I can say I'm a good example. I went to school. You can tell by my age. Before the advent of teachers unions, I went to Schultz Elementary School in Detroit, Michigan. It's one of the lowest rated, schools, elementary schools in the state of Michigan today, but it wasn't when I was a kid. I got a fine education there, went on to high school, went on to college, and here I am today. So the point is, the idea is not to have racial quotas. The point is, and if you're a minority watching this, the point is you need school choice. That is the answer, school choice. Charter schools. You want to get your kids out of these terrible public schools where they're taught now not reading and math and history and all the subjects you need to succeed in the future. You're taught instead to, and most important, that if you work hard, you can succeed. You're groomed to question what sex you are and to hate this country and to believe that you can succeed. If you're taught that you can succeed, that the deck is stacked ahead of you, then why would you even try? But you put these same kids in a charter school where they're told that they can succeed and they're asked to work hard and they're asked to study. They study and they achieve and they go on to college and they do as well, and an eighth grader and even a seventh grader does as well as about half of high school, 11th and 12th graders in public schools, at least in New York City. So that's my thought for today. Thanks for stopping by. Would love to see you again. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. But in any case, until I see you again, bye.